Welcome, everybody, to Exit Lane number 3. This is the third installment in the podcast that we're putting together to help you navigate those waters of eventually selling your shop. Everything that leads up to selling the shop, who you're going to sell it to, why you want to sell it, what do you need to do to prepare for it, all the way to the point where you walk away with a big fat check in your hand and you're out enjoying life, whatever it is that you want to do in the next part of your life. With me, I have former shop owner Gerry Frank, who just recently sold his shop. Welcome, Gerry.
Welcome, everybody. It sounds so weird to say former shop owner. It's going to take me a long time to get used to that.
Exactly. So, 34 years, 35 years in doing
Yeah.
this and going to the shop and obviously helping a lot of shop owners along the way with the coaching that you do. So you still getting over that hump
We're
of being
still
a non-shop owner?
still getting used to it.
Okay, real good. So today, I want to kind of roll back. We talked about, real quickly your story of going through, who was going to buy the shop and ultimately when you sold the shop, things like that. But I want to kind of break things down a little bit more. And you mentioned that you had three different kinds of buyers coming at you looking to sell the shop to. Like you mentioned, it's third time's a charm. This last one was the one that got it and stuck. So tell me just real quickly, what were the three kinds of buyers you had over the years that in this process that you were going through?
Yeah. So the first one was a technician. A technician that I was going to sell to, and I thought he had the right stuff. So as we got on that process, I had really high hopes, but obviously that didn't work out. Kind of fell apart at the end. Can get into that in a little bit. Second time around, it was a big corporation. So I learned a little bit in that, kind of what they're looking for, but the big corporation, things fell apart at the very last moment, so that didn't work out. And then the last time, as you say, the third time's a charm. It was a mid-sized company, but you could say another shop owner. They had, I think I was 13, number 13 and number 14. So they had a few shops in our area, and they were looking to grow. And as you say, the third time's a charm. So that one finally stuck.
Okay, so let's dive deeper into each one of these things, and very specifically, probably the first potential buyer that you had seems to be the most common that everybody thinks about when they talk about selling the shop, because a lot of current shop owners were previous technicians. They worked for somebody, the owner was retiring, and they kind of moved up the chain and they wound up buying the shop, or they themselves were technicians, then they started the business. So when people look to sell the shop, that's obviously the first thing that goes through their head of, well, I'm just going to look for one of my good employees and approach them. So if not, it's their kid, it's their son that's working in the business. Maybe it's a little different story, but again, it's somebody that's working in the shop that you want to kind of grow and have them buy the business. Let's talk about that. So what are the advantages or different disadvantages, things to think of when you're looking at selling it to an employee?
I think about two things specifically. Do they have the money, and do they have the skills? So in my case, it was a technician. He was pretty good at fixing cars. I was trying to ease him into the manager type position to try to give him the skills because I knew he would need that. And then, the second thing is, do they have the financial backing? So, when you think about the financial backing, and I know this is the route I want to say probably 75% of shop owners go through. This is who I'm going to sell it to, that technician in the bay or the service advisor. And yes, he's a nice guy. But if he took your financials, and we're going to talk about how important financials are at some point, but if he took your financials, could he get a loan at the bank? Because what happens so many times is the only way that's going to work out is if the shop owner plays the bank. And there's a significant financial risk to you to do that. I would highly advise don't do that. I don't want to, and I don't want you to either, stake your family's financial future on this individual. And I know that might be your only game plan and it might come as a shock. It's like, oh crap, now what do I do? But think about it. If the bank won't loan them money, why should you? Now, the other side of that coin is do they have the skills? They might be really great at fixing cars, but being a shop owner, you've got to wear a lot of different hats. You've got to be good at kind of looking at the finances. You're the CEO, you're the manager, you're the service manager, you're the in charge of recruiting. I mean, there's just so much that us as shop owners do. If he doesn't or she doesn't have the skills, you've got to work on really providing them the skills. A coach is a great place to do that. You've got to, if you don't have them yourself, you've got to seek other people to try to give them the skills they need, or else they just won't be ready. I think today business is much more difficult than it ever was. It's way more difficult than when I got started. We didn't have the internet, the reviews. It's tricky out there. So you really got to have some good business management skills for that to work out.
Yeah, and I think it actually could be the double whammy for you. So if you wind up becoming the bank, that requires that guy who's never owned a business, who's not necessarily a business person, to run the business profitably so that he can make payments to you so you can be retired because you're the bank. And if he doesn't have that, you're not going to get that, and you're going to get sucked right back into the business. And look, it works out for quite a few people. Not saying that this is a horrible way to do it, but it's probably, I would say, the least desirable way if you want to make a clean break and a safe break from the business itself. So let's move on to let's go to that big ginormous corporation. I know there are some large companies that are out there that are doing these massive roll-ups, that they're looking for well-run shops to come in, swoop them up, and become part of this nationwide chain. And this is happening more and more and more, and not just in the auto repair industry, in quite a few other industries as well. And this could be a really great place for everybody to sell because, well, it took care of the first thing, the financing. They're a big corporation, so chances are you might be able to walk away with a check. But there's also other things other baggage that can come along with that too. Again, no right and wrong way. This is a different way. So tell us about that experience.
Yeah, so that experience with me was, yes, they were this big corporation who will remain nameless. But the plus side of it was all the financial stuff, like you had said. They didn't have interest in purchasing the property, so they wanted to sign a really long-term lease, which was great. When you think about stepping away, I don't like to say selling the business. I don't like to even think of retirement. It's kind of like an exit plan. You're going to exit the business and then get on with other parts of your life. So for those other parts of your life to work out, right, retirement or whatever you may want to say down the road, you've got to have steady income. And who best to have that in than a big company that has a lot of financial backing, strong. It's like investing in one of those great stocks or something like that. There's not a lot of risk involved with it. So that's a really positive for it. The other positive thing for it is you don't have to worry about staffing so much. Most of them, they own multiple shops, so they're able to staff it. And they're going to bring their own systems. They already have their way of doing business. So they're going to come in and they're going to implement their systems, just like if you were buying a McDonald's. You don't have to figure out how to make the burgers or anything like that. It's all done for you. Some of the downsides of it is usually they're looking for more than one business. I found what made them attractive. We had 2 shops at the time. So they were looking at more than one business. They'd rather come in and they're going to try to dominate an area just by purchasing your customers and your footprint in that area. So they're able to grow quickly because cash isn't. They have plenty of cash. Cash isn't a concern. Some of the downsides of it is you better have all of your paperwork in order and strike while the iron is hot. Because they want to try to kind of close out rather quickly, and they're going to do their due diligence. So they're going to ask for a lot of different information, your financials. You got to have all of that in order. They're not gonna settle for, well, these aren't my real numbers. Let me clean this up a little bit. No, they want to see it right there on paper because they want to make sure that they're getting a good purchasing a good, strong business. I think in most cases, you're not going to get as high of multiplier or as high as value as you might think because they already have their own process, their own systems, and they feel they can do it. So they're coming in to buy a mid-level business. They're going to make you an offer. There's not a lot of negotiations in that price. This is what we typically pay based on a business your size. Kind of take it or leave it. And if it doesn't wet their whistle, if you will, they'll move on because there's plenty of other shops in the food chain that they could, take that same offer to that will say yes.
And I can imagine that would be a little bit more intimidating too, because you're dealing with a professional hawk, somebody that really knows their stuff, somebody that's been there, done that over and over and over again, and it can be really intimidating because they have the experience, and they have their set of rules that they're going to abide by, and like you just said, you've got to fit those parameters, or you're not a good target for them. And I say target not in a bad way. I mean, you ultimately want to be a great target for whoever you're going to be selling the business to. So you just got to make sure that this is right for you. So again, there's no right or wrong way to go about it. We want to just kind of talk about, the three attempts that Gerry had in selling his shop. So let's talk about the winner, the one that did it, the one that finally bought your shop. So it was kind of like right in between. So it's like the three bears, you have the Goldilocks. You got this one was just right. Not the huge company, not the individual who's never owned a company, but more of somebody who was in the growth phase. They are not trying to swallow up and create an empire, at least not necessarily yet, but they wanted to expand their footprint in your area, in the Cleveland area. So somebody that's already had 12 or 13 other shops, who's been there, done that, but is you deal directly with the owner, and you're working with somebody who is going to be then taking care of your customers. So it's a big company with that small company feel. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that if I kind of had to categorize that, it's a company that probably has somewhere between 5 and maybe 20 locations. Usually they're central. They're in your state. They haven't typically branched out across the country. It's not a nationwide company. Maybe they've got a pocket in a couple of other states and looking to grow. But one of the things that was really great, as you mentioned, Ron, I was able to talk to the owner. And you're not talking to the professionals like you are in the other one. They're really buying the story. They're buying the shop. They usually heard of me. They do a lot of due diligence as well. They want to see all of your financials, but it's more of a one-on-one conversation with you. You're talking to the guy who's making the decisions, and you don't have to go through this hierarchy maybe that you had to do with those big companies. The two things that were important to me, and I know think about it. It sounds great to exit your business, sell your shop. You're going to get a big payday. All of that is wonderful. But as a human being, my employees are like family. And I wanted to make sure my employees were taken care of. You've been working with these folks for a long, long time. Number two, I wanted to make sure my customers were taken care of. And I really felt like I found, that perfect situation because I felt like both my customers and my employees would land in a really good spot. So that was important to me. Unlike that big corporation, which wanted, if you think about it, that big corporation wanted like money in escrow for any warranties, any coupons that they would be accepting, anything like this. This mid-level company that I ended up selling to, they're just smart at business. Of course, they want to take care of the customers to earn a customer. So it felt like I was dealing with a face and a friend. The price was, I got my asking price, which I'm glad to say. And it was all done, really on a handshake and happened really quick, which I talked about, which is not normal. But, I want to kind of recap those three for a moment. So when you're dealing with an individual, whether it be a technician or a service advisor in your bay, I run some, you run some of the risk as the financial risk plus the education risk. I got to get them up to speed to make sure they're successful or the check quits coming in. So there's significant risk there. With the large company, they're pretty much running the show and you're just a bystander. They're going to make you an offer. This is what we offer. This is what we typically offer, but there's financial security for you. You got that big company behind you. The odds of them going belly up are slim and none. So in my case, they were going to sign a long-term lease. They weren't interested in the property, wanted to sign a 20-year lease. There was some great financial security with that. And then in the last company, which I ultimately sold to, it was a mid-level company, and I really felt comfortable with it. There was peace of mind that I knew my customers, my employees, and myself were going to be taken care of. Yes, they had systems, a lot of that big company did, but the big company just didn't have that hometown touch.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate that. And we're not quite finished yet, but for those of you that are watching, if you're watching this on YouTube, please do us a huge favor. Go down, like the video, comment on the video, and even more importantly, subscribe to the channel. If you're watching this on Facebook, do the same with liking and commenting, because that kind of helps us get a little bit more traction here. And we're planning on doing at least one, sometimes maybe two of these every single week. And the more love we get from you, the more of these that we're gonna put out and help you guys. And if you got any questions, anything, drop them down below. If you got any show things that you want us to cover, put those down as well. So I think where we go from here is, and I guess the bottom line when it comes to all of this thing is, there's no right or wrong way. It's what it is that you're trying to get out of your shop. You've poured your blood, sweat, and tears into the shop. You want to make a real good exit that's right for you. There's risks on all things. Please don't take what Gerry's saying in his experiences as the only way that these things are going to happen. All we can do is just talk about the experience that Gerry had in selling his shop and kind of the things he went through and the considerations. And like he mentioned, it was very important his customers were taken care of and things like that. That may not be important to you. You may be just saying, yeah, give me this. Give me a stack of money here and let's go run, and there's nothing wrong with that too. If that's the way that you operate your life, that's all well and good. So stay tuned for the future episodes of this. And again, we're here to help. So if you got some questions, drop them down below. And certainly at a certain point, we're going to maybe put together a little bit of a webinar and get in a little bit more teaching and give you guys an opportunity to maybe work one-on-one with Gerry if you want to get your shop ready to sell. And it doesn't matter when you're going to be selling. You need to be prepared when that time comes. So Gerry, any final last words?
Yeah, I was going to say, the one is a really lonely number. So maybe if you got your kind of, like I did, I had my bullseye kind of zeroed in on a specific way or a specific person or a specific company I was going to sell to and felt pretty confident that was going to happen. And for one reason or another, it fell apart. But there are a lot of opportunities, especially in tough economic times like we face today. Auto repair shops are one of the best businesses. They're really recession proof. So if you've got your eyes on one particular, maybe that technician in the bay that's going to buy it, and things fall apart, don't get discouraged because there's other buyers out there.
Absolutely. It's a great business to own. You guys know it. I know you're in the business. It may be a little bit tough, but to the outside world looking in, owning an auto repair shop is a phenomenal investment. So thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you on the next Exit Lane podcast. Take care.
Take care.